Sofia Ramirez wiped the sweat from her brow as she polished the grand silverware in the opulent dining hall of the Evergreen estate, her swollen belly making every bend a labored effort at 7 months pregnant, the weight of her unborn child a constant reminder of the life she carried amid the shadows of her daily toil in this sprawling San Francisco mansion owned by tech tycoon Alexander Hayes, whose innovative software had catapulted him to unimaginable wealth and influence in the city's elite circles. At 27 years old, Sofia had never pictured herself in this role, bent over gleaming utensils that would soon grace tables laden with gourmet delicacies for guests who lived in a world far removed from her own struggles. Her dreams once alive with the vibrant rhythms of New Orleans jazz clubs where her soulful voice had captivated small audiences night after night, drawing whispers of potential stardom and fleeting offers from scouts who promised to elevate her talent to greater heights. But those aspirations had shattered like fragile glass when Dylan Reed, the charismatic guitarist she had briefly dated during her touring days, vanished without a trace upon learning of her pregnancy, leaving her heartbroken and adrift in a new city where survival meant taking any job that offered stability and a roof over her head. She had arrived at the Evergreen estate through a staffing agency, her resume highlighting her organizational skills and reliability rather than her musical background, and Alexander had hired her on the spot with a compassionate nod, his warm demeanor a stark contrast to the cold precision of his business empire, often greeting her in the mornings with a genuine inquiry about her well-being that made her feel seen in a house where invisibility was the unspoken rule for the help. "Keep out of sight today, Sofia," came the sharp directive from Isabella Vaughn, Alexander's fiancée, a striking woman with flawless auburn hair cascading in elegant waves and a wardrobe filled with designer labels that screamed inherited privilege from her family's long line of influential philanthropists. As she glided past in a luxurious silk robe that whispered against the marble floors, her massive engagement ring catching the sunlight streaming through the tall arched windows like a deliberate flaunt of her status, adding with a dismissive wave, "The decorators are arriving soon, and I don't need them distracted by, well, that." Her gaze lingering pointedly on Sofia's rounded form before she turned away, leaving a trail of expensive perfume that lingered like an unwelcome reminder of the divide between them. Sofia nodded quietly, murmuring a soft "yes, Miss Vaughn," as she pressed herself against the wall to let Isabella pass, her hand instinctively cradling her belly where the baby kicked gently as if sensing her mother's tension, a small act of protection in a world that often felt unkind to those without means. And she pushed her cleaning cart further down the corridor, adorned with priceless paintings from renowned artists that seemed to observe her every movement with indifferent eyes, the estate alive with the hum of pre-wedding preparations that had turned the once serene home into a whirlwind of activity. Florists hauled in crates of exotic orchids and lilies, their scents mingling with the polish Sofia applied to the antique furniture, while caterers debated the finer points of caviar selections and artisanal cheeses in the expansive kitchen, and event planners scribbled furiously on clipboards, coordinating timelines under Isabella's watchful and often critical supervision, her voice echoing through the halls like a commander's orders on a battlefield where perfection was the only acceptable outcome. Sofia's mornings began at the crack of dawn, long before the household stirred, dusting the vast library shelves, lined with leather-bound volumes on technology, innovations, and business strategies that Alexander pored over during his late-night work sessions, his presence sometimes lingering as he offered a brief but kind acknowledgement, his eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses meeting hers with a nod that carried a hint of empathy, a rarity in her isolated routine where blending into the background was essential to avoid Isabella's ire. "You holding up all right there?" he had inquired one early morning, noticing her subtle wince from the persistent back pain that came with her advancing pregnancy, even offering her a moment to sit on one of the plush armchairs that typically went untouched by staff, a gesture that felt like a beacon of humanity in her otherwise mechanical existence, and she had replied with a grateful smile, "Just the usual aches, Mr. Hayes, nothing I can't manage," though inwardly she appreciated the brief respite, knowing better than to linger or overstep in a dynamic where boundaries were strictly enforced. Lunch breaks provided her only true solace, shared in the bustling kitchen with Marco, the estate's head chef, a robust Italian man with a booming laugh and hands skilled in crafting meals that could rival any fine restaurant, always insisting she join him for a hearty plate despite her protests. "Eat up, my dear," he'd urge, sliding over a steaming bowl of homemade pasta with fresh herbs and vegetables. That little one inside you needs all the nourishment, and so do you. Can't have you fading away on my watch. His warm accent wrapping around the words like a comforting embrace, and they'd converse about simple joys, Marco sharing tales of his family back in Tuscany while encouraging Sofia to hum snippets of melodies as they worked side by side, her voice filling the space with soft, enchanting notes that made him pause his chopping to listen with a grin. You sing like you've got the soul of the greats. Why bury such a gift in these walls? He'd question, his eyes twinkling with genuine curiosity, but Sofia would deflect with a modest shrug, the sting of her unfulfilled dreams too tender to probe. Memories of packed venues and applause now distant echoes overshadowed by the reality of impending motherhood and financial uncertainty. As the wedding neared, Isabella's expectations escalated into relentless scrutiny, snapping at Elena, the planner, over the precise height of table centerpieces or the shade of napkin folds, her tone laced with impatience that bordered on disdain. And Sofia caught fragments of conversations in passing. Isabella complaining about the last-minute jazz vocalist hired after the original artist cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances, her words sharp. Ensure she's flawless. I refuse to tolerate anything less than excellence at my celebration, delivered with a glance towards Sofia mopping a nearby floor, a fleeting but unmistakable smirk curling her lips as if harboring a secret thought. Alexander, amidst the whirlwind, appeared increasingly distant, his customary warmth dimmed by the mounting stress of the event, once confiding in a phone call to his confidant Victor that subtle doubts about the union persisted, pressured by familial ties and societal expectations to proceed despite an inner voice urging caution. Sofia's afternoons were consumed with ironing endless linens in the steamy laundry room, where she'd softly croon lullabies to her belly, original compositions weaving themes of hope through hardship. Her voice, a private act of defiance against the confines of her role, the melodies soothing both her and the child within. One such session was interrupted by Alexander entering unexpectedly to retrieve a forgotten document, pausing in the doorway to absorb the sound, his features softening with evident admiration. "That's truly captivating. Did you compose it yourself?" he inquired, causing her to startle and flush with embarrassment. "Just a little tune for the baby, sir," she stammered. But he encouraged with a sincere smile. "Please, don't halt on my behalf. The world deserves to hear such beauty," his words lingering like an unintended spark. Unaware that Isabella, passing by the adjacent hall, had overheard the exchange, her jealousy igniting like dry tinder at the sight of his genuine interest in someone she deemed beneath notice. Evenings brought bone-deep fatigue, but also a quiet determination. Sofia would phone her sister in New Orleans during rare quiet moments, venting about the day's trials and sharing apprehensions about the road ahead. "The extra pay from this wedding frenzy will cover the essentials like a proper bassinet," she'd confide, downplaying the deeper anxieties gnawing at her spirit, her sister's voice a lifeline. "Hang in there, sis, your voice will carry you through, just like it always has." Marco, ever the vigilant friend, cautioned her about Isabella's escalating temperament. "She's got a sharp edge to her, keep your distance, especially with the big day looming." His concern rooted in overheard staff gossip of Isabella's history of dismissing employees over minor perceived slights, tales of abrupt firings that left lives upended. Whispers circulated among the household help about Isabella's possessive nature, her subtle maneuvers to isolate Alexander from casual interactions. But Sofia persevered, her hidden talent simmering like a dormant volcano, awaiting the pressure that would force an eruption. As the wedding eve descended, Isabella cornered her in a dimly lit hallway amid the final flurry of arrangements, her tone dripping with feigned sweetness that set Sofia's instincts on alert. "I've caught wind of your singing, quite impressive for someone in your position. Our vocalist might require a stand-in. Think you could assist if the need arises?" Sofia paused, a mix of flattery and suspicion swirling within, agreeing hesitantly to avoid conflict and maintain her precarious employment. "If it's truly necessary, Miss Vaughn," unaware that Isabella's contingency was no accident but a meticulously crafted scheme born of envy and a desire to assert dominance, fermenting in the undercurrents of resentment and control, poised to erupt on the morrow and alter the course of their intertwined fates forever. The wedding dawn broke with a frenzy at the Evergreen Estate's grand ballroom, transformed into a fairy tale venue with cascading crystal chandeliers and ivory drapes that shimmered under the soft glow of early morning light filtering through expansive windows overlooking the manicured gardens. But for Sophia, it was a marathon of silent toil amid the opulence that seemed to mock her weary frame, dressed in her crisp uniform that strained uncomfortably against her pregnancy, as she darted between tasks like arranging intricate place settings on long banquet tables covered in fine linens and replenishing floral vases with delicate blooms that released a subtle fragrance into the air. Her body protesting with every hurried step while guests in designer attire began arriving in luxury vehicles that lined the driveway, their laughter and animated conversations a stark contrast to her enforced isolation in the background, where she blended like a shadow to avoid drawing attention. Isabella, radiant in her custom gown with layers of intricate lace that whispered of extravagance and hours of fittings with renowned designers, orchestrated the chaos like a queen surveying her domain, her commands slicing through the air with precision. "Those chairs are uneven, fix it now. Or do I need to do everything myself?" Her tone laced with an impatience that sent the decorators scrambling, while Sophia avoided her piercing gaze, focusing instead on maintaining the seamless flow of preparations, her fatigue mounting as the hours ticked by, the weight of her unborn child a constant companion that made even simple movements feel like climbing a mountain. The ceremony unfolded flawlessly under the golden sunlight that bathed the outdoor pavilion in a warm embrace, Alexander standing tall at the altar in his impeccably tailored suit that accentuated his confident stature, exchanging vows with Isabella in a display of scripted perfection that had the assembled crowd of influential business leaders, socialites, and family members nodding in approval, though his smile seemed slightly forced, a subtle flicker of regret in his eyes that only his closest friend Victor noticed from the front row, leaning over to whisper a quiet reassurance that went unheeded amid the orchestral swells. As the receptions commenced in the adjoining tented area adorned with twinkling lights and bountiful buffets, champagne flowed freely from crystal flutes passed by uniformed servers, and toasts rang out in celebration of the union. Sophia served discreetly from the periphery, refilling glasses and clearing plates with practiced efficiency, her presence meant to be unobtrusive yet essential, until Isabella's voice suddenly boomed over the microphone during a lull in the festivities. "For a special treat to delight you all, our very own Maid will grace us with a performance. Come up here, Sophia, and share your hidden talent." The announcement hanging in the air like a thunderclap, the room hushing as 400 elite eyes turned toward her in a mix of curiosity and amusement, while security personnel subtly positioned themselves to block any potential retreat, Sophia's heart pounding like a relentless drum in her chest as she realized the depth of the setup, pushed forward by Elena's reluctant hand on her elbow, the planner murmuring a hurried, "I'm sorry," she insisted. Sophia ascended the steps to the stage in her simple uniform, her belly prominently displayed under the harsh spotlights that cast long shadows across the polished floor, facing smirks and whispers from the crowd. "Is this some kind of entertainment twist? How quaint," one guest murmured while Isabella beamed with a malicious glee that twisted her features, handing over a sheet of lyrics to an unfamiliar ballad with vocally demanding runs and high notes clearly chosen to ensure a spectacular failure, the band members exchanging confused glances, as they had no prior sheet music or rehearsal for this impromptu act. Betrayal dawned fully on Sophia as she pieced together the calculated cruelty, no warm-up, no proper introduction, just raw exposure designed to amplify her vulnerability in front of this judgmental assembly, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the microphone, the weight of expectant stares pressing down like an invisible force. But in that crucible of pressure, a spark of defiance ignited within her, drawing from the well of her New Orleans roots, where music had always been her armor against life's harsh edges. She discarded the provided lyrics with a quiet resolve, turning to the band leader and requesting in a steady voice, "Just a simple 4-beat rhythm, slow and steady, I'll handle the rest," her choice falling on her original composition, Echoes of Strength, a piece born from nights of quiet reflection on enduring trials and the quiet power found in perseverance. Pouring her soul into the opening lines that resonated through the speakers with a rich, resonant timbre that immediately silenced the scattered chuckles. Her voice, untrained in formal settings but honed by passion, wove emotion through every note, conveying the raw ache of overlooked dreams and the unyielding spirit that refused to break, the lyrics painting vivid pictures of rising above whispers and doubts. And as the performance unfolded, the crowd's demeanor shifted from amusement to captivated stillness, the band sensing the magic and improvising gentle harmonies with piano swells and subtle string accents that elevated her delivery without overpowering it. Alexander, positioned mid-dance floor where he had been preparing for a formal waltz with Isabella, froze in place, his expression transforming from polite confusion to genuine awe as he absorbed the depth of her talent, his recording device forgotten in his pocket as he simply listened, the room's energy palpably changing with guests leaning forward in their seats, some dabbing at unexpected tears, the performance an unexpected beacon that pierced the veneer of the event's superficial glamour. Isabella's triumphant smile faltered, morphing into a mask of barely concealed fury as her plan unraveled before her eyes, the intended humiliation flipping into a triumph that highlighted Sophia's grace under fire. And in that pivotal moment, Marco's phone, tucked away but ready, began playing a surreptitiously captured recording of Isabella's earlier scheming. "Let's watch the pregnant nobody crash and burn. It'll remind her of her place and keep her from getting ideas." The words blasting out as Victor, sensing the shift, amplified it for all to hear, outrage rippling through the assembly like a wave crashing against the shore. Alexander's face hardened with realization, turning to confront Isabella publicly amid the growing murmurs, his voice cutting through the din with uncharacteristic firmness. "This ends right here, the marriage, the deception, all of it. I won't stand for such heartlessness," as he slipped off his wedding ring in a deliberate motion that drew collective gasps, the symbol of their union discarded on the floor like a worthless trinket, shocking the room into a stunned silence broken only by Isabella's protests that fell on deaf ears. He rushed to the stage where Sophia, overcome by the emotional exertion, had slipped on an overlooked spill from earlier service mishaps, cradling her protectively as he called out urgently, "Someone get medical assistance now, her safety comes first. Forget the rest," his priorities shifting irrevocably in that instant, following the arriving paramedics to the ambulance with a determination that left no room for argument, the night closing not with celebratory toasts but with the estate emptying in a haze of whispers and reevaluations, Isabella's carefully constructed empire of social standing crumbling as guests departed with judgmental glances, her isolation growing in the wake of the betrayal's full unveiling, marking the wedding not as a joyous union but as a watershed moment of truth and consequence that would echo far beyond the evening's dramatic crescendo. In the months following the wedding's explosive end, Sophia's world blossomed from the ruins into a vibrant tapestry of opportunities and challenges, her viral performance clip from that fateful night amassing millions of views across social platforms and drawing eager industry scouts to her doorstep like moths to a flame, each one captivated by the raw emotion in her voice that had turned a moment of intended shame into an anthem of empowerment while she navigated the profound joys of impending motherhood alongside the inevitable legal storms stirred by her sudden spotlight, finding solace in the unwavering support of newfound allies who rallied around her like a protective circle. Discharged from the hospital with reassuring confirmations from the medical team that both she and her baby had escaped any lasting harm from the fall, Sophia graciously accepted Alexander's thoughtful offer of residence in his estate's secluded cottage, a charming haven nestled amid blooming gardens filled with vibrant roses and lavender that provided a peaceful retreat where she could heal and reflect without the constant hum of external pressures, though lingering whispers of scandal trailed her like faint echoes, tabloid headlines spinning sensational tales of hidden romances that Alexander swiftly addressed through measured public statements, affirming her innocence and expressing his deep regret for the circumstances that had unfolded, his words carrying the weight of sincerity that helped quell the rumors and restore a sense of normalcy. As her belly continued to swell with the promise of new life, so too did the doors of possibility swing wide open. A renowned producer named Lucas Grant, deeply moved by the authenticity captured in the online footage of her onstage triumph, reached out with enthusiasm and arranged flexible home recording sessions tailored to her condition, guiding her through the process of refining echoes of strength into a polished single that debuted to widespread acclaim, its lyrics resonating with listeners across the globe as it steadily climbed the music charts, celebrated for its heartfelt message about overcoming judgment and finding inner fortitude in the face of adversity. Labor arrived unexpectedly one rainy evening, the first sharp contraction catching her off guard while she was reviewing vocal tracks in the cottage's cozy living area, prompting Alexander to rush to her side with calm efficiency, bundling her into his car and navigating the slick roads to the clinic where, After several intense hours of focused breathing and encouragement from the attentive staff, she welcomed her daughter Mia into the world, a precious bundle of soft cries and dark curls that immediately melted Alexander's usually guarded heart as he waited in the adjacent room, pacing with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. And later, when allowed in, he held the tiny infant with a tentative wonder that softened his features, murmuring softly, "She's a fighter, just like her mom," his voice filled with a quiet awe that marked the beginning of an unbreakable bond. Post-birth, the realities of her evolving circumstances brought fresh challenges to the forefront. Dylan resurfaced through persistent communications from his legal representatives, asserting claims for custody fueled by her burgeoning fame and the financial prospects it implied, portraying himself as a reformed individual ready to step up. But Sophia, fortified by the expertise of Alexander's trusted legal team who meticulously reviewed every detail, countered with compelling evidence of his prolonged abandonment and lack of involvement, ultimately securing a court-approved arrangement that allowed only supervised visits contingent upon consistent back support payments and demonstrated reliability, transforming what could have been a devastating loss into a carefully guarded boundary that prioritized Mia's well-being above all else. Her debut album soon followed suit, a thoughtfully curated collection of originals that seamlessly blended her jazz-infused roots with deeply personal anthems exploring themes of renewal and self-discovery, hitting the top spots on various charts and earning prestigious nominations that validated her artistic vision, while Alexander channeled his resources into founding the Hayes Harmony Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to aiding aspiring creative parents in overcoming barriers to pursue their passions, appointing Sophia as its ambassador where she shared her inspiring journey at fundraising galas and community events, her presence drawing crowds eager to hear how one act of courage had sparked widespread positive change. Romance bloomed in subtle, unhurried ways amid the rhythm of their shared experiences, casual shared dinners at the cottage evolving into meaningful conversations under the garden's twinkling lights, stolen glances during recording sessions giving way to heartfelt admissions, until one serene afternoon over a simple picnic spread on the lawn with Mia giggling nearby, Alexander confessed with a vulnerability that matched her own, "You've shown me what real connection looks like. Beyond the surface of wealth and status, it's in the quiet moments of support and understanding." Their first kiss unfolding naturally under the fading sunlight, sealing a partnership built on mutual respect and equality that felt like the natural progression of their intertwined paths. Fame inevitably brought the demands of tours and public appearances, but Sophia approached them with a balanced perspective, scheduling intimate venue shows that allowed her to return home frequently, Mia's infectious giggles echoing in backstage green rooms where she balanced diaper changes with sound checks, while the broader community impact of her success continued to expand scholarships funded through the Hayes Harmony Fund, enabling dozens of talented individuals to access resources like mentorship programs and equipment grants, workshops hosted in partnership with local arts centers where Sophia personally guided sessions on songwriting and performance, inspiring participants from diverse backgrounds to embrace their unique voices and pursue their ambitions without fear of judgment. A year onward, standing center stage at a sold-out arena bathed in colorful lights with thousands of fans swaying to her melodies, Sophia dedicated her encore set to those who rise despite the falls that try to hold them down, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on Alexander and Mia in the VIP section. Mia perched on his shoulders, waving a tiny glow stick with unbridled joy, her life now a harmonious symphony of love, professional fulfillment, and purposeful advocacy forged from the ashes of one night's unforeseen chaos, a testament to the transformative power of authenticity and the unexpected alliances that can emerge when one dares to let their true self shine through the darkest moments.